Welcome to Elevated, a place where the mystical meets the everyday. I am Dawn, a stay-at-home mom to a wild and spirited boy, and a guide in the realms of Reiki, Akashic Records, natural healing, and soulful living. Here, we'll talk energy, intuition, spirituality, but also the realness of motherhood, wellness, and creating balance in the chaos of it all. So grab your tea, take a deep breath, and join me as we explore healing, alignment, and the beauty of both the magical and the messy. Welcome to Elevated. Welcome to Elevated. I am Dawn. How are you doing? I hope you are doing wonderful. I have had an extremely busy but amazing week. And so this week I'm doing week 5 of Walk on the Wild Side, a course that I'm taking where I get paired with a goddess and I'm working with my goddess to find out about things that are holding me back and that I'm sabotaging myself with. And I had my one-on-one. It was very informative. So that was really great. I have to sit down and I have to figure out what contracts I want to release and how I want to go about doing that. And I think I'm almost procrastinating because I don't feel like it's perfect enough. I have some ideas. I have to write it down. I know if I just sat down and I started to write, it would all channel out and it would be perfect. But I just don't feel like I want to do that yet. So that might be a tonight thing. But no one's home. My son's at preschool and my husband's at work and it's always so quiet. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to hop on and I'm going to do my podcast while no one is home. And what I wanted to talk about today is just something fun, something I think is fun anyways. It's nothing where I'm going to teach you anything or anything like that. It is literally just where I'm going to tell you about times in my life that maybe I've felt spirit or a ghost or something like that. And these will not be chronological. They're going to be all over the place. So it might be like when I was a child, a teenager, adult, whatever. Okay. It's just however it comes to mind. But when I was a child, I think I was 6, maybe 7, maybe even younger, I always had this feeling that there was somebody at the foot of my bed watching me while I was going to sleep. And it was scary. And how do you explain that to your parent? How do you say to your parent, well, I feel like something is there watching me? Your mind can't even comprehend that. You don't know what a spirit is. You don't know any of that really. So how do you explain that to someone? So I was never really able to tell my mom how I felt. She did give me a nightlight that I kept right on my bed, or as close to my bed because I had a plug-in right there. The only problem is one time my stuffed animal got up against it and it burnt my stuffed animal. Luckily, it didn't start a fire or anything like that, but I always had a burn mark on my stuffed animal. But I have felt like there has been somebody watching me falling asleep since I was little. And even as an adult, when I would be going to bed, I would have to have my back a certain way and I would always have to face the wall for sure because I just felt like people were watching me. And for some reason, if I slept with my back towards the wall, I couldn't fall asleep. So I had to face the wall all the time. And I had a Reiki appointment and I don't know how it got brought up. I don't know if it was in a session, if I had talked to my Reiki master about this or what, but somehow it got brought up. And she goes to me, she goes, do you feel like you were being watched when you were going to sleep? I'm like, yes, I do. All the time, I feel like I'm being watched. And by this point, it wasn't just one person. There was people. I think there was 3 or 4 people that were literally watching me go to sleep. And so we cleared that off. We got rid of those people. And it's been ever since I was a little kid that literally somebody was watching me go to sleep. And I've always had that feeling. There was a point in time too when I was an adult and I couldn't have my back towards the wall and I had to be facing the people watching me or the spirits, the souls watching me, that I literally felt that if I had my back towards them, there would be a knife put in my back all the time. And I think that's why I was sleeping facing the wall, is so that I could see if that was going to happen. Obviously, they're spirits. It's not really going to happen, but I just always felt like I was going to get stabbed in the back. That probably has something to do with a past life. I'm thinking now that I'm saying it because I almost forgot about it. Actually, no, I did forget about it until now. So there's that one. And with that one, I believe it was my grandpa on my mom's side that would watch me. I've never met him. He passed away when my mom was a kid, so I don't know him. I've never met him. I don't really have a connection with him, minus the fact that he's my mom's dad. But for some reason, ever since I was a kid, I feel like he's been with me, watching me. And once we cleared that, there was no issues with that, and I could literally fall asleep, no problem since then. There was another time I was a young adult. I was probably early 20s. And by early 20s, I mean like I was more like 24. I'm just thinking about the vehicle I was driving. But when I was 17, I had rolled my parents' car in the winter. And then when I was about 23, 24, I had rolled my other car in the winter. Yes, I didn't want to hit the ditch, so I tried to keep the car on the road at all times so I wouldn't hit the ditch. And every time I did that, I rolled the car, okay? We had some years where I was rolling my cars. But this one particular time, I was living in Winnipeg and I was driving home. We were living outside of Winnipeg and I was on the bridge to go onto the highway, and there was this truck in front of me, and I just felt like no matter what, this ladder that was on this truck was going to fall off. So I started giving myself space between myself and this truck, and I had to stay in that lane because I had to make the right-hand turn so that I could go onto my highway. And I'm watching this ladder, and sure enough, the ladder falls off. I've never been in a situation like this. I'm literally the car behind this truck. I thought I had enough room. I didn't. And as it's falling off, I slam on my brakes. Now we're doing 80, 90, probably over the speed limit, I do feel like, but we're going quite fast. And I slam on my brakes, kind of puts me into a skid. It's not icy. It's like summertime. Puts me into a little bit of a skid. And again, I'm trying to stay on the road. So as I'm trying to stay on the road and I'm steering, all of a sudden I felt like my car was about to go into the ditch and it was about to roll over. But this time I'm like, I don't have the cushion of snow. If I roll, this is it. This is where I'm majorly injured. I'm going to the hospital, probably dying. Like all this is going through my head at this time. And so all I did in that moment is I yelled, "Mom!" And I felt, and it wasn't probably my mom, but maybe one of my spirit team, one of my guides, protectors, whatever, they came and I felt them push their hands on my car and push my car to keep it from rolling, to make sure that I was okay. I did a 180, so I'm facing the wrong way. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, traffic's coming at me. Thank goodness there wasn't a ton of people around at this point in time, and I was able to slowly turn around and get back onto the road and like do my turn to get onto the highway. And I pulled over and I remember I'm just shaking. I'm shaking so bad. I was like, oh my God, that could have been super bad because this ladder fell off the guy's truck and he had no clue. And if he did have a clue, he didn't stop to go pick up the ladder. He just kept going. It was so scary. And I'm so grateful for my guides, my protector, whoever it was, whatever spiritual force that there was that came and just literally pushed my car. Like I felt my car being pushed so that it wouldn't fall onto the road. That was so, so scary. What other ones do I have? Oh, going back to when I would be sleeping in this house. So just to explain this house we have built ground up. It was a farmer's field that had sheep on it that they have subdivided into our subdivision. Prior to that, where we are located, probably a kilometer away from a trading post. Therefore, if there's a trading post, this was very tribal area. We would have had indigenous people on this part of our land. So it's very spiritual. It holds a lot. And I've done property clearings through the Akashics as well as Reiki on our house. With the Akashics, we go in to see if it is a sacred site, and our land obviously is sacred site. I mean, some of our neighbors have teepee rings, and I'm sure if I go outside, maybe we could find some teepee rings in our yard as well. So very sacred site. And I think because of that, I know because of that, we have a lot of extra activity and spiritual activity within our development and our land. When we first moved here, before I knew about the Akashic Records, before I did the property clearing that way, I would sometimes feel like when I was sleeping, I was being pinned down. So there would be times literally where I would feel someone like on top of me, like a heavy, heavy weight on top of me. And I was almost paralyzed and I could not move and I couldn't even scream out. Like I'm trying, my mouth is open. It's like I'm screaming, but there's no sound coming out. And then eventually the sound would come out and then I would be completely freaked out, and it was not good at all having those ones. I don't know though if we had brought in a dark force, a dark entity, but I've had a few of those instances at nighttime where that's happened. The one time too, I couldn't sleep with my husband. He was snoring. Well, I thought he was snoring, but in the last 4 years, I think it might have actually been my little Chihuahua dog. She's a Chihuahua Boston and she snores, like ridiculously snores. And I'm an extremely light sleeper. I sleep with earplugs and I could still hear the snoring and this breathing, and it just irritates me to hear people breathe. So I couldn't handle it. So I was like, you know what? Instead of waking him up constantly, being like, quit snoring, because I would do that lots. I was like, okay, I'm just going to go into the spare room. And my brother, when he stayed, always stayed in our spare room, which is right next to our room. And I go into the room, I think it's like midnight. I'm laying down, I'm sleeping. I'm finally like good sleep. I'm excited, because I'm super exhausted by this point. And I wake up to someone yelling my name in my ear. Like, Dawn! And I'm like, what the? And I'm looking around. I was like, okay, there's no one here. My husband isn't in the room. He's sound asleep. He has no idea. And I am like freaked out because it was clear as day, someone yelling my name in my ear. So of course, naturally, I got up, left the room, and went back to sleep with my husband because I'm like creeped right out by this point in time. I didn't go into that room for quite some time. Now, I went to work and there was a few ladies that were big into the spiritual side of things, and I was talking to one of them and I said, hey, this is what happened last night. And she goes, you really need to do a house clearing. You should get some sage and just clear your house. And it's something we had never at this point in time ever done in our house. We've never cleared our house at all. She goes, did you get anything? Like, have you received anything from anyone? And I said, well, in that room, I said, I do have a teddy bear that my grandma had in the nursing home with her. And she looks at me, she goes, okay. She's like, you need to get rid of that teddy bear, because what could have happened is something could have attached to that teddy bear and now it's in your house. And I was like, okay. So apparently you're supposed to kind of like gift this. I don't know. I didn't know that. So I had some vacation time. I took some time off that day. I got some sage and I smudged my house, smudged my land, smudged the house, did everything. And I'm not going to lie. We have a very big house. We have 3,600 square feet. It's a lot to smudge, and we have a lot of corners, and you got to get into the corners and do all this stuff. So I did that. We also have 12 acres of land. So I was out there smudging our land, just clearing away everything I could. Again, this is prior to me knowing about the Akashics. So therefore, I did not do an Akashic clearing and property clearing. And this is before I was even a Reiki practitioner. I didn't even have my level 1 yet at this point in time. So I wasn't even working with my Reiki master at this point. So I'm doing this on my own, and I take this stuffed animal that now I'm kind of creeped out with, and I take it, put it in a bag, and we take it to the Laura Spin. And where our Laura Spin is it's about 5 kilometers from our house. It's a general one for our area. And so we threw it out. And I went back to work and I told this girl what I did. She goes, you just threw it out? I'm like, well, yeah, like, isn't that what you do? Like, you just get rid of it. She's like, ooh. She's like, hopefully nothing happens. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, I didn't know, but nothing happened bad of it. We got rid of it. And not to be afraid, like, there's not good spirits or bad spirits in a way. It's just, there was something that wasn't vibrationally matching myself. So it was a lower vibration. So it's not like it was a dark entity. We just tend to call them dark, but it was just a lower vibration than what my vibration was at that time. So it feels a little bit more scary. It feels a little bit more dark, if you will, in that regards. So I was working with my Reiki master at this point. I had my level 1, maybe going into my level 2. And where we are located, again, you know that where we're located is very sacred. And where she's located was very sacred. And where her business is, it's very sacred land and she feels it and she knows it. So we were always able to kind of have these conversations and we understood the land in which we were around. And so I was talking to her about this and I said, I don't know. I said, I got these like 2 old indigenous guys just sitting out on my deck. And she's like, what? And I said, yeah. I said, like, we have our little bistro table out on our deck. And I said, they sit there like all the time. And I said, they don't come in. Like they know the boundary. I've set the boundary that they're not allowed in our house. But I'm like, they just sit on our deck. And she goes, Dawn, they probably shouldn't be there. They shouldn't be there. Like, you need to cross them over. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, they're friendly and they're nice. Like, they don't do anything. I said, they're just sitting on our deck hanging out. Like, they're basically like having coffee all day. And she goes, Dawn, you need to send them on their way. And I was like, well, I don't even know how to send them on their way. So like, what do I even do? And so this is where she told me that what you can do. And there's so many different ways. So take this if it resonates with you. And if it doesn't, that's perfectly fine. And do it a way that would resonate with you. But how I did it that day is I came home and to be honest, I'm kind of sad that they're not there. Okay. Like, I really didn't mind them, but they are souls that are trapped within this lifetime that didn't get to the next lifetime or to the next realm. And so you don't want to keep a soul trapped. And sometimes what happens is they don't know that they passed. Sometimes it could have been a traumatic passing. And again, they don't know it happened really quick, something like that. Or they're staying here because they believe that there's still a mission for them to be here on Earth and they need to complete that mission. But anyways, very respectful guys. Like I said, very respectful. They never came in. And so I was okay with them being there. Like, they were very nice. Sometimes I would even kind of like talk to them. I'd be like, hey guys, how's it going? You know, like whatever, like enjoy your time out here. And they did. They really did like the bistro set. So I get home. I tell my husband, I was like, okay, you know those guys that we keep talking about? He's like, well, yeah. I was like, we're supposed to like send them on their way. We're supposed to help them cross over to the next realm. He's like, oh, I said, I guess they're trapped souls. And he's like, oh, so that's fine. So we go, or I go, and I'm out there. And he's like, well, how do you do this? I'm like, I don't know. I said, I was told by my Reiki master, Tina, that you can picture a ladder, you can picture a bridge and a rainbow, like something, and you let them know that they're no longer welcomed here and that they need to go towards the light or go up the ladder, go towards the rainbow, like something like that. So I think I had a bridge and I said to these guys, I was like, I really enjoy you being here. I really like you being here. It's not that I don't, but I know that you're not supposed to be here and you need to move forward now and you need to go to your next experience. So I'm going to need you to follow this ladder, go up the ladder into the light, please. They were very nice, very caring beings. And they went up the ladder and they were gone and they've never been back since. And like I said, I kind of miss them. Like I do. I kind of miss going out there knowing that, you know, they were protecting our house in a way. They were there. They were just that force. So yeah, my bistro guys are gone. When I was doing the property clearing, well, all the time in the house when I was doing smudging, because after that one encounter where I was being yelled at, I would start smudging our house quite frequently. And so as I was smudging the house, I always felt in the one part of our mechanical room behind the water heater at that point in time, it was dark. And I just felt this negative dark energy there all the time. And I would smudge and I would smudge and I would smudge and it would feel okay. And then the next day it would feel dark again. And I always kind of felt bad for my stepson because his room is right up against that area of our mechanical room. And I'm like, oh, is that energy getting into his room? Does he kind of feel a little bit creeped out by it? Is he uncomfortable in his room? That type of thing. He wasn't like the typical teenager that just spent hours and hours and hours away from us and in his room. He just never did. And I always wondered, I'm like, is that just who he is as a person? Or is that because he's not really comfortable in his room? And then I worried, I'm like, is he able to have good sleeps at night? Is he not having good sleeps? And he's not telling us, like, does he feel comfortable? But I didn't really know how to bring this up to him because already I think he thinks I'm really crazy and I'm, you know, the stepmom and just that whole box that I would put myself in that regard. So I never really talked to him about it. But when I was doing the Akashic Records clearing, what you do when you do that for your property is you can actually go in and you can find if there's portals, if there's gateways where souls can come in. So a portal is where it's a little bit active, but a gateway would be like a highway where it's like constant traffic. And that was a gateway where souls and people were coming in, going out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out all the time. And then since doing the Akashic property clearing, I've actually been able to close down that gateway and it's never opened up again. I've never had a problem. I'm using my stepson's room for my studio, for my Reiki studio, all of that. And it feels great. If it doesn't have that energy vibe that it used to have. What I would do when my son was down here though, is I put 2 bowls of salt by his door and 2 bowls of salt by his bathroom door so that nothing would cross into his room. So his room was kind of off limits. It was a boundary set, like nothing was allowed in his room so that he could have a really good night's sleep and that he could feel comfortable in his room. But he never felt comfortable being downstairs. He never felt comfortable hanging out in the rumpus room, having his friends over, nothing like that. I'm wondering again if it was because of the gateway, because of that and the activity that we were seeing, or again, if he was just that kid that just didn't feel comfortable doing that kind of stuff anyways. Now we are in our basement all the time with my son. So we are down here all the time. It's his play area. He runs, he jumps, and it's just such a different feeling in our basement than before. So I'm wondering if it is because of that gateway and closing down that gateway, or if it's just because we've made it feel a little bit maybe more homier in that regards as well. There is the pantry light. So we have a pantry with a door and we have a motion sensor light for the pantry. So we don't have to turn on a light. It just automatically comes on as soon as we go into the pantry or open the door. This light, no word of a lie, is always on. Like it's on, off, on, off, on, off. It'll be 1 a.m. and I'll get up and I'll go to the bathroom and the light is on. The door is closed. There's no reason, like there's no one in the pantry. No one's grabbing anything. The door isn't open. The light is on. Get up at 2, the light is on. Get up at 4, the light is on. Like it's just crazy. And then sometimes the light is off. We'll be sitting having supper and all of a sudden the light just turns on. We'll be sitting watching TV, all of a sudden the light just turns on. I'm like, what is with this pantry? Like it's always turning on. And I always joke now because my brother passed almost 8 years ago. I will be like, hi, Kenton, how are you? It's almost like his portal sometimes, I think. And maybe it is. So in the middle of the night when I see it on, I'm like, is it Kenton or is it somebody else? And it is a portal way. Definitely it is. It is one that I have yet to shut down. I can't, for whatever reason, seem to shut it down. The gateway downstairs I've shut down, but I can't seem to shut the pantry down. When I do the property clearings, it will shut for a bit, but then it seems like it's reopening. So I don't know if our energy's just allowing it to reopen or something, or if literally that's where my brother is saying, no, this is where I'm coming in. And it doesn't matter what you do. This is my portal and I'm going to come in, because he is the only spirit that I truly allow in this house. I don't allow any other spirits. I don't allow any of my family members that have passed except for him. I just don't. I feel safe with him and I really just always want to have that connection with him. So I think that's why I allow him to do a lot more. We had a very, very, very special bond in this lifetime. So I still allow that bond to happen. I do allow one other spirit in. Usually when I am doing Reiki, I will call in my brother and I will call in my Reiki master because she has passed as well. So I will call both of them in to help me with my Reiki. But other than that, no other spirits. I just don't need the hassle, I think is part of it. Does it always work? No. And I say that because my son's closet in his room is a portal way as well. And there are times when I'm like, I just get that feeling. I was like, oh, it's open again. And so I got to close it down. And there are nights where he's just having such a hard night and he is talking and he talks in his sleep. It's really cute. I don't know if they should or not, but it's so cute. Sometimes I'm like, oh, is that what his subconscious is working out? And he's like, Mom, no, no, no. And you're like, what did I just do to my son? I think it's really cute anyways. And he's fully asleep. Like he has no idea that this is even happening. But in his room, there is that portal way. And sometimes I do feel like it's open again, but there's not a lot of activity going in and out. Sometimes I do feel like there's someone sitting on his chair. I'll just get an image of just a black figure sitting there. Right now, there's someone that sits out in my living room on the one part of our couch. We've never had a visitor there, but they're sitting there all the time. And I'm like, what is going on with this? Like, it's so crazy. I almost want to sit down and have a discussion with them. It's when I'm coming out from my studio, my husband's already in bed watching TV. I have 2 dogs that stay with me and 1 that stays with my husband. So I'm letting the dogs out, and as I'm coming back into the house and I'm going to go down the hallway after my dogs have come in, I just get this sense that there's someone sitting there, and I should at that point go and sit down and talk to them. But again, I just like, is my husband going to think I'm crazy? He probably already does think I'm crazy, and I should just sit down and have this discussion with them. Sometimes I wonder if I'm a medium, but I'm blocking my mediumship because I do see these people and they are here, but I'm almost afraid to walk into that mediumship part of it. So it might be something where I do sit down, but I do feel someone. There's sometimes too where in the one chair where my dogs sit, that we will get a feeling that someone is sitting there as well. But I haven't had that one for over a year. Since I've done my property clearing with the Akashics, that one has never come back. But now it's like, are they now just sitting on the other end of the living room? I don't know. We went on a holiday to Golden, BC. We were staying just outside of Golden. I don't really know the area. It was on, is it Highway 93, 95? The one right outside of Golden. It's not the one that goes to Radium, but the other one. Doesn't really matter where we were. Anyways, we were probably 20 minutes outside of Golden. We were staying at this house, found an Airbnb, and it was a cabin. And we're like, yeah, that'll be nice. You know, like you're in the mountains, you get to have a cabin. We kind of like the idea of always having a fireplace there and more of the log sort of cabins. And it was in a price range that we were okay paying for the trip. And so after a 12-hour drive, we get to the place and we walk in. We had our 2 dogs. Our dogs are a little bit uncomfortable. And you know, when you go to an Airbnb, you start touring the place. Like you want to get a feel of it. You want to see it. You need to know the layout, where the bedrooms, where you're staying. And we just had this weird sort of feeling the whole time we were there. It was kind of uncomfortable. It was like we were interrupting someone else's space. It wasn't very welcoming in that regards. Not that the people hosting weren't welcoming, but just the space, the energy wasn't very welcoming. And we spent the night and we got up in the morning. We had gone downstairs. There was a room down there and they had old, like 1940s, 50s, 60-ish strollers and like a doll from that time frame in that stroller. It freaked me out. I felt so uncomfortable. The energy from that, it was just something that I couldn't get rid of. It just freaks me out so bad. So I was like, nope, I'm not doing this anymore. Like there's something in this house. We just felt it. We just knew it. The dogs were unsettled. And that's always a good key too. If you have animals, if the animals are unsettled, something is around, right? Again, it's not that it's always scary. It's not that it's negative. It's not that it's going to hurt you. It's not that it's a dark entity. It's just there. And at this point, I was like, no, I don't want to be here. And yeah, we could have cleared it. Like I knew how to clear it and we could have easily have cleared the place. But the other one was there was mice everywhere too. And we were just like, no, we don't want to stay. We don't live in a mice infested house. We're not going to pay for our vacation to stay where there's mice. And I get it. It's a cabin. They're not always there and mice are going to get in. So we left. But there was that time. And just like in that house, like even now as I think about that place, and don't ask me why I think about it. We spent less than 12 hours there. We should not be attached to this house like we are. But I can just see, and even my husband said too, that there was a spirit, like almost like a girl was there in a way. And so I see her still standing there. I see her kind of playing some games. Like she's just there. Even in my mind's eye right now, I can see her there. Yeah. So sometimes getting Airbnbs, there is that. I really should start taking my own sage with me or Palo Santo and taking my selenite with me so we can like cleanse the area. Then there was the one time when we were in Revi, and this didn't happen to me, but it happened to my husband. So we're in Revelstoke. We frequent Revelstoke probably anywhere between 6 to 8 times a year, a little less the last little bit, but this was a time frame where we were there frequently, and we were staying at this one place that we've stayed at before. We really like it. They have a really nice yard, a lot of trees. The bears come in the fall, which we like. They're literally just off the mountainside. So their backyard is the back of the mountain. It's beautiful. It's great. It's got the fireplace. Like, it's just such a place that we absolutely love. This is a time where it was just my husband and myself. And I want to say there was 2 encounters there. So he's packing up the truck the one morning because we leave super early in the morning all the time. We leave about 3-4 o'clock because it's a 12-hour drive for us. And they're usually, depending on the season, they could be 2 hours behind us or 1 hour behind us. Thank goodness they are part of BC now where they are not changing time. So they'll only ever be an hour behind us. 2 hours is so exhausting. But anyways, so we're there and he's packing up the truck and he comes in and he's like, there's a girl standing by the truck. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah. He's like, there's a girl standing by the truck and she's got this long white dress on. It's kind of lacy, and she's standing there almost like a nightgown, I guess you could say. And I was like, and he's like, yeah, she's just standing there. He's like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, we could leave her, or I'm like, we could cross her over. And at this point, I knew how to cross them over. And so I said, like, what do you want to do? He's like, I don't know. He's like, what should we do? And I think at that point, we didn't do anything. We just kind of left her. And I don't know why I did that. Like, I should have crossed her over. So she's there. And, you know, he's like, yeah, she's there. And then he goes to me later. He goes, did we bring her home? Like, is she here? I was like, no, I don't think so. I said, I think she's still there. And then we went back probably like a year and a half, 2 years later. And I will say this. I will say that even the very first time that we went there, because I think we stayed there 3-4 times now, and they have 2 properties on the yard. The one property is great. We've stayed there, nothing at all. And they're literally like 20 feet away from each other. Like, they're not that far. And then the second property where we like to stay a lot, the main house, is where there seems to be like a lot more activity, if you will. And so I remember the very first time that we went there, they have a vaulted ceiling, and where the closet would be in the upper bedroom, they had put a bed back there for their toddler. And I always just got this weird sort of feeling back there too. I was always like, oh, there's something here, but it never like came out of there. So I just left it there. Again, it's not my place, I think. So sometimes I think like I can't clear it or I shouldn't clear it. Like, I don't know, maybe it's like one of their loved ones that are there that wants to be there and they don't mind it. And it's not my place to clear these people out. So I think that's why I leave entities where they are, but I should really ask them too. I should really sit down and get the story, but then that I didn't know before if I should do that or not do that. And I don't know if that's a form of mediumship and if I'm blocking that or whatever. We go back and we're upstairs again. That's where we always stay, is this one bedroom. And we have my son with us this time. And just the feeling, like it's in the bedroom. It's no longer kind of in the closet area. You can feel the energy in the bedroom. Not downstairs, not in the other bedroom that's in the house, not in the bathroom, not anywhere else. Just in this bedroom, which there's no door. It's literally a loft. I'm like, this is so weird. So we stayed there, kind of felt off the whole time because there was another energy there. And we haven't been back ever since because when we went that time as well, there was mice. And we were just like, no, we're not doing it. But it was just very uncomfortable. And especially with a 1-year-old, it was just something where we didn't want to do that. So we just left. So those have been kind of some of our encounters. The other one that just popped up into my mind, I think it's cool and I can go back, and we haven't. So again, before we knew how to cross souls over, so we still had our guys on our deck. They were still hanging out. My husband had gone down to my uncle's house. So he lived probably 5-6-ish minutes away from us. And my husband was doing something at his house and he was coming up, and the road that he was taking, he was going by the cemetery. And so he comes up by the cemetery. And for anyone that lives out where I do, you'll notice this and you'll be like, really? Tim did that? Yes. Okay. So he's coming up. I'm at home. He comes in and he's white. And I was like, what's wrong? He's like, I was just coming back from your uncle's. And he's like, I drove by the cemetery. And I was like, okay. And he goes, and I heard a little kid saying, I need light. And I was like, oh. And I was like, okay. I'm like, well, did you stop? And he's like, no. He's like, I kind of got freaked out and I just came home. I said, okay. I said, so this little kid needs light. He's like, yeah. He's like, I don't know who's in there. Like, it's not a cemetery we visit because there's no need to visit it. We don't know anyone, right? So he's like, I don't know. He's like, it's just, I feel like we need to do something. I was like, okay. So the next day, my husband goes out and he spends probably $40, $50 on getting solar lights. And what we did, he's an electrician, so he always has strapping. So we go and we get these solar lights and we strap them onto the outside of the cemetery so that there's always light. And then I think we went in at that point in time and we tried to find kind of where maybe the energy was or a spot that maybe needed some light within there, and we put a couple of solar lights in there. And now I kind of see like more people are putting solar lights around some of the plots and stuff in there, and we don't drive by there. Like my uncle has moved. We don't really go down that way at nighttime, so I don't know if the lights are still on or not, if they need to be on or not. So it's something where maybe my husband and I should go back to the cemetery and see. And then if there is the presence there, we could cross that presence over, because it could be that he's looking for his mom or his dad and they're looking for him and he wants to get there, because it was a younger kid. It wasn't an older kid by any means. It was a younger kid for sure. So yeah, so there's those sort of encounters that we've had a lot, definitely with our land. Again, it was sacred land. So when I did the Akashic Records property clearing, I was able to reset our land. And by our land, I mean the block that we own, the acres that we own, our physical land that is in our name. I was able to change that part of this development into a non-sacred spot. However, this is really interesting too, because we have other areas and we don't own all that land, right? We don't own this quarter section. We don't own this whole section. We just own 12 acres of it. The other parts of the land are still classified as sacred land. Therefore, we could still see activity within our house because of the fact that we have other people around us, front, back, sides, that are all sacred land. So I got a hold of my Akashic Records teacher and I said, okay, this is what's happening. I did the clearing, but I still feel like there's something here. I said the portals are still opening, and they still are opening, and we may always have portals. That's fine. Probably live with the portal. If it's my brother's portal, that's fine. I will close down my son's portal in his room as often as I can, because no, that's his room. That's a boundary. You stay out of our rooms. You can stay in my living room. You could stay in my kitchen. Be in the bathroom. I don't care. You do not come into our rooms and you do not bother us while we are sleeping. That is the number one boundary that I have. I would prefer them to be outside my house, but they're coming in through the portals. They're going to be in the house. So what she said to me was you could do, I forget what they are called, certain word, and I do have the whole system written down, so I know, but what we did was we took a jar and there was like salt in there and some herbs in there, and we put our dog fur and our hair in there, and we put dust from the house, and we put screws and glass and all these things in there, and we buried them on the four corners of our lot. And then we also buried one, and this is kind of the issue too, but we buried one by our cement pad that would go into our front door. So we have a front door and we have a man door to the garage, where that's where we're going to see the most action. However, I do believe that we need to put one right where our actual physical garage door to bring vehicles in would be as well. And then we would be fully blocked there, but it's slag and hard earth. So I don't know if my husband really wants to dig one into there, but we might do that this year. We just did this before fall so that it was done before the ground froze. But that is what we have done. So we've put these protection, I hate calling it protection because we're not being harmed anyway, but we put these jars essentially. I forget what they're actually physically called. I'll do some research and I'll link it in my show notes for you. But we put those in the corners and we did that. I do have a whole podcast on property clearing as well through the Akashic Records. Podcast number 5, Akashic Records property clearing. I will link that one as well in my show notes for you so you have it and you can listen to that one as well. But that's what we've done. Like I said, I still feel like we have a few portals in our house just because of the sacred land and because we have neighbors that haven't done the property clearing and haven't changed their land from being sacred. I'm just trying to think if I've had like any other encounters. Obviously, I always have encounters with my brother. Like there'll be times where I'm driving and all of a sudden I just kind of like put my hand over to the passenger seat. It's like him and I are just holding hands. I do it a lot when it's just just me in the truck, and it's very rare now that it's just me in the truck. And I will always talk to my brother for sure if I'm having issues or something, if I just need advice, if I'm lost or something. I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? When I journal, I do channel. So I'm always bringing in my spirit guides or him or something at that point in time. Definitely. I don't go looking for spirits. That's one thing that I don't do. I'm not afraid of spirits, and I would really love to connect more with them. There's times when I do Reiki, sometimes I get spirits that come in. Definitely if I'm doing Reiki on my mom, my brother will come in. I've done Reiki on a client, and I had a spirit come in where they were letting my client know that their passing was not their fault in any possible way. I've done work on a client too where their brother had come in and was able to talk to them. I've had a couple of clients actually where I've done Reiki on them after their siblings have passed, and the sibling was able to come in and connect with them. I love doing Reiki like that. I love when I'm doing Reiki and a loved one comes in and just has a message for that person. I absolutely love it. I've had it where I've had a Reiki session being done and my brother's popped in pretty much every time since he's passed that I've had Reiki. He's popped in. The last time he came in, and I just love it. My brother's always around. So he comes in and the lady was like, my lights were flickering. I'm like, it was probably my brother. I said, he kind of does that. And she's like, oh, yes, that's right. And she's like, and he was here because he gave you a message. I know when I do Reiki, I do channel. Like I said, my brother and my Reiki master, they'll come in quite a bit when I'm doing that. So I just have like the extra strength. I guess I always think it's extra strength and power. I don't know if they're doing anything, but yeah, a lot of times when you're doing something like that, you'll get the spirits. And then I do when I'm in the Akashic Records as well. I can channel as well when I'm in there and get that. So there's a lot of spirits that way that I do, but to have like the actual spirit encounters just out and about every day, those are some of the things. Again, like I said, I'm very attuned to energy and the change of energy. So I can feel that very easily. I can't always picture. That is one thing I'm working on, is my third eye. And it's actually really crazy that right now, as we're talking, I'm seeing so many of these pictures that I hadn't before. And the one that really wanted me to even do this is the whole reason why I wanted to do this podcast. I almost forgot. Oh my gosh. Okay. And it's funny. It's 10:23 on my clock too. That's so funny. So 1, 2, 3. I lived in Edmonton and I lived with a brother and a sister. I worked with them. I went to school with the brother for a semester and a half, and worked with the sister. Anyways, they lived in, okay, I laugh, but you know how you always say like there's a right side of the tracks and the wrong side of the tracks? Legit, the backyard was the right side of the tracks or the wrong side of the tracks. So if you went out the backyard, you were in the wrong side of the tracks. If you were in the backyard or the front yard, you were on the right side of the tracks. Literally the area of Edmonton we lived in. So a lot of weird stuff would always happen. But this house, and it was so cool because they are so spiritually open. I love it. I love it about these people. So they always said this, they were always like, the spirit never comes around when my dad's here, but the spirit's always around when my dad isn't here. They were gone and it was just me at the house for probably 3, 4, 5 nights. I was busy working at this point in time, working crazy hours, in and out all the time. And they had 2 cats, 1 cat. They had some cats. Anyways, I'm sleeping and I know of the spirit. Like you go down in the basement and you felt the presence of spirits. It was just a very spiritual house. There was a lot of spirits. There was a lot of ghosts, if you will, that were in this house all the time. So the one time I'm there by myself, I'm sleeping, and I hear the loudest crash. The cats were literally laying in the room beside me. Like they were nowhere near. So it wasn't the cats that did this crash. I couldn't see anything that fell, nothing, but I just heard this massive crash downstairs. So of course I again, right side of the tracks, wrong side of the tracks, kind of creeped out, not very comfortable in the neighborhood, but it was all fine. It was all good. But anyways, this happened and I was like, oh my goodness. And I was like, I'm not totally comfortable with this, but I was already looking into spirituality. At the radio station in Regina, they already had a psychic on there and she was talking and I was doing some work with her before I left for radio school. So I was already getting into the spiritual world. So it wasn't too creepy or anything. I was just like, okay, whatever, just leave me alone. Don't bother me, right? And I pushed him aside. When you would go in the basement, you would just have always those feelings. You would know that there was energies down there was spirits down there, it was whatever. But what really got me was, and this is so weird now that I think about it, was I would go to the bathroom, and they, again, how the house was built, they had a closet in the bathroom. So there was a door, and sometimes it was open, sometimes it was closed. I really didn't like it being opened, so I'd always kind of like try and close it, but the house had shifted. You couldn't really close the door. It was an older house for sure. And they had an old clawfoot bathtub, and I would go, and it was more, I think, the bathroom that I used. I don't know if I had to share it with anybody. Can't really remember the details of that, but I'd go in there and I would like pull a shower curtain so I didn't have to see the tub. Because in the tub, there literally was a lady that was sitting there in the dresses of like the early 1900s. She was just sitting in there. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. What are you doing? You know, and like she was just there. And I showered in there. I didn't really feel anything when I was showering, but like whenever I was using the toilet, I just saw her and felt her all the time kind of looking at me. And I was like, this is so weird. And the one time I was like closing the door and I just felt all the energies. She was there. There was like another person there. And I was like, okay, like now I can see these people. And I didn't say anything to the owners of the house because I was like they knew of the spirits, but I was like, can they see the spirits? Like, do they see this or do they just feel this? And again, we're all very open. We talked very openly about the spirits in the house. We joked about the spirits in the house, all of that kind of stuff. So I was only there for a couple months, and then I moved out and I went to another place and I was perfectly fine. In this place, like no spirits were there, nothing weird was there. I had my own bathroom, like it was great. I had my bedroom, my own bathroom, very nice condo, newer area of town. It was wonderful. I moved back home and I start seeing the spirit again. I was like, what the heck? Like, why are you here? And I didn't know what to do. So the spirit had left and probably followed me to the other place, but was like quiet or hid, or I don't know, maybe bugged like the other guy and the roommate or something. Like, I don't know, like whatever. But like, I never saw the spirit until I moved back to Saskatchewan. And then all of a sudden I would see the spirit and I was like, you attached yourself to me. Like now we're here. I have since got rid of that spirit, but I feel like that spirit even moved into this house with me, if I remember correctly. Like I didn't write any of this down, which is too bad because we're talking, oh my God, I hate talking years because I don't feel like it's been that long. Like I feel like it's only been like 3 or 4 years. But when I look back on it, it's been 19 years. Like what? Like literally, I think I started school in 07 and then I moved home in 09. That's so crazy. Oh my gosh, it just blows my mind how fast time is going. But I think when I cleared the guys off the deck, I also cleared the lady that would sometimes just like pop in. Like she wasn't always here, but sometimes she would just like pop in. She'd be here. And I'm like, what? Why are you back? Like, why are you following me? But yeah, so that was some spiritual encounters that I've had. It's fun. I like it anyways. I don't know. Let me know if you've had any crazy different sort of spiritual encounters like that. At my parents' house too. When I was living at my parents' house, sometimes like I was in the basement and I would like run up the stairs because I felt like there was someone watching me all the time. I'm like, oh, just quit watching me. You know, one time when I was like sleeping, I kind of felt, again, always felt that presence, right? That was before I got rid of them and cleared them. Even when I moved back, I lived with my parents for a couple months after I got back from school, and same thing. It was like I just felt that presence as I was like going up the stairs. So I always like to have the light on if I could to go up the stairs because it just bothered me. I always felt like there was someone watching me at my back. So those are just some of my spirit experiences. But let me know if you've had any spirit experiences. I'm always fascinated by this stuff. Like I said, when I do Reiki, spirits come in quite a bit. Obviously, Akashic Records, we are working with your higher self in the Akashic Records, so that's pretty normal. But yeah, let me know. It's interesting. If you want to connect with me, my company is Elevated Soul Healing, so you can go to my website at elevatedsoulhealing.com. I'm on Facebook at Elevated Soul Healing, or Elevated if it's just the pod. On Instagram, it is Elevated Soul Healing or Elevated.pod. To connect with me there, that is where I can be found. If you're on iTunes, scroll down, hit the 5-star. That would be so appreciative. It helps push my podcast out to other listeners. It helps rank me and other people can find me. If you like what you are hearing, please subscribe to the podcast. Again, it'll just notify you or just come into your podcast library so you don't have to try and find me every week. It's just automatically when I upload, then you will get the podcast right there and you don't have to do all the search and all the work and all that fun stuff that happens. If you want to leave a comment, I would love for you to leave a comment and let me know about any spiritual encounters that you've had. If you want to talk about your spiritual encounters too on the podcast, let me know. I'll have you on as a guest. That would be great. I would love to talk about this kind of stuff with other people and not just my experiences, but get your experience out there as well. If you have any ideas or requests for the podcast, let me know. I would love it. If you have any questions for me regarding, Reiki, Akashic Records, any of the courses that I'm taking, anything like that, just shoot me either a comment or you can go to my website at elevatedsoulhealing.com and just go to the contact area and you can email me that way. Or hey, email me at elevatedsoulhealing@gmail.com as well. So many ways to get a hold of me. If you want to be a guest on my podcast, again, get a hold of me. Let me know. I would love to have more guests on. I did do a interview with a lady last night from Saskatoon. It was so much fun. I can't wait to get that podcast out. It's going to be regarding like access bars and body talk and Reiki and sound healing and all this beautiful stuff that she does. So that'll be out in the next couple of weeks. I haven't really decided when I want to release that one yet. And then we are going into Easter and I'm debating, I'm just going to throw this out there now, if I will do a podcast the week after Easter, just because we are a little bit busy over the Easter break and I don't know if I'll have time to do a podcast or not. I'm hoping to record all my podcasts and be able to edit them prior to that so that they're ready to go. But we'll see how that one goes. I need to book with a couple more guests this next. I think I have two for sure, maybe 3 guests. So we'll have those podcasts coming out. So again, just connect with me. Let me know if you want to be a guest, if you had any spiritual encounters with, quote unquote ghosts or spirits of any sort. Maybe we'll do another podcast on house clearing or just a podcast on how to cross somebody over. There's so many different ways, but we could do something like that. Let me know if you're interested in that. And until next time, I hope that you have a wonderful Easter, because Easter is coming up this weekend. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here. I love you. I love doing this. So thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.